Just want to make everybody aware that I believe I was informed that Connecticut News is going to be recording the proceedings today. Is that correct, John?
It looks like we have a CTN on here this morning, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a notice just popped up, says recording and transcription have been started by someone. Yes.
That was probably from Rochelle, but
Okay.
Yes, that's me. So I'm recording on my end, and they may also be recording for their stuff too. But
oh, that being said, so review of the minutes of May 29th. Everybody had a chance to review their minutes? Any corrections or was there a motion to accept the minutes?
Right. I make a motion to accept
the minutes.
I'll second that.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, minutes have been accepted. Comments and concerns of any person present today? We have a few people on the screen. I don't know, is there anybody, any comments, concerns? No. All right, moving right along. DCP Investigation Division Complaint Status Report.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning, Supervising Special Investigator Hamill.
For the time frame May 1st of 2025 through June 30th of 2025, the department received 2 new complaints, and in that time frame 4 complaints were closed. 3 were as a result of site inspections. 2, there were no violations found on those 2 inspections. 1 yielded a assurance of voluntary compliance, and 1 complaint was closed with an assurance of voluntary compliance, and those yielded civil forfeitures of $3,500.
There was actually, let me just back on my notes here. It wasn't under yours, it was under legal. I guess there was a settlement report, but that comes under legal, not you, Janita, correct?
Correct, sir. If
Right.
Settlement agreements are undertaken by our legal department, we do assurances of voluntary compliance, and then we testify at hearings, and then the board makes their final decision in order. So, are there any questions from you, Mr. Chairman, or your members or your board members?
You stated there was 1 AVC closed.
Two files, two AVCs. 1 was on a complaint, and the other one was from a site inspection.
And what was the amounts on that, you said?
On the assurance of voluntary compliance,
Yes.
for the first one,
For the
for the complaint was $1,000, sir.
Okay.
And from the site inspection, that was $2,500.
Is there any
And
additional? Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And then again, the next 2 site inspections that are listed on the report were closed. Everybody was in compliance, and there were no violations found. Just to remind everybody, we are out doing random site inspections. We are also doing the joint venture Department of Labor, Wage and Workplace Standards, Department of Consumer Protection, Occupational Licensing Enforcement are still doing joint inspections together. We are out doing random site inspections as well as handling the complaints. That's about it, sir.
Okay. How about the names on the two AVCs?
You don't have the report, sir?
I don't, just look through my paperwork. I might have misplaced it, or I don't know if I received it.
Okay, the respondent for the complaint is a Michael Simons, Simons.
Okay,
And then from the site inspection, it's Marcio Oliveira, Oliveira.
okay.
It's up on our screen, Janita.
Yeah, it's up on the screen. I don't, did anybody else receive it? I trying to,
I can't download the.
It was the
whole
last
agenda.
file in the, yeah, it's the last file in the agenda.
okay.
Janita,
All right.
do we have the names of the contractors that these gentlemen work for and what they were cited for?
The Mr. Oliveira is the F1. And in the
Right, but-
resolution notes, he's the F1, he's the contractor.
Right, but the name of the business?
That's not on here, and I have a rather weak connection right now, so I'm not going to be able to bounce out of this and get into our licensing, our complaint system to look it up. The reports that the department's IT group has created don't bring up the company name on the reports.
Okay.
Anything further for Inspector Hamel? Well, thank you for your report.
You're welcome, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Have a good holiday.
You too.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. All right, moving along, DCP Legal Division. Do we have anybody?
Mr. Chair, there's nobody here from legal at this moment.
Okay, I thought there would be somebody to give a report on its settlement with the agreement that was, they couldn't really elaborate on last month. All right. Have Rochelle put that on for next meeting. I'm just making some notes here. Yep. All right, old business. The backflow, we'll keep that in there for till we have some further new news. Moving along, new business. Ratio relief. And if the board members had a chance to review the legislation that was passed this last session regarding ratio relief.
Yes.
Who was that, Wayne, or
Yeah, Wayne.
anybody else? About 5-6 pages of, there was 2 meetings held. Just bring you up to speed what I can inform you of, with the board chairs. There's only 4 boards that are involved. It's the electrical, heating and cooling, plumbing and fire protection. The other craft I don't want to call them craft boards, but the glass and elevator that for some reason were not included in this. Also was a meeting held with the commissioner and several staff from DCP and the board chairs again. I will actually probably defer to John Mesner could probably explain it a little better than, but the ratio relief has changed. It used to be handled by the DO, just what I can tell you, it was handled by the Department of Labor. Under this new legislation, it's been switched over to DCP. I guess it's in conjunction with DOL. DOL has the final approval. To the best of my knowledge, and anybody correct me if I'm wrong, it's still 1-to-1 on the job site. This is on the hiring ratio. But the last thing I'd say before I turn it over to let John explain what he can, because he's more adept with it. The policies have to be established by the individual boards. We report back to the commissioner by February 2026. And with that, John, if you could give a synopsis of what this entails.
Yeah,
As
no
far
problem.
as it's the
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, good morning, everybody. The hiring ratio, the statute itself did not change. So the statute remains the same. It remains to be 1-to-1 up to 3. And for each additional apprentice that you want to put on, you have to comply with the hiring ratio. So if you want to put a 4th on, it's 3 additional journey persons or contractors. So the old chart remains the same. The statute remains the same. What has changed is the process of which a individual applies for the relief process. Previously, that was held at the Department of Labor through the Apprenticeship Council. That is now with the Department of Consumer Protection. So what's going to happen is if a contractor needs additional apprentices above what the hiring ratio specifies, they will put an application in with the Department of Consumer Protection. That would be reviewed by the department for contractors that are seeking 8 or less apprentices and have the proper number of journey person and or contractor licenses available to support such program. There was specific questions that were put within the law, so they would attest to those questions, and if everything is answered properly, the department would review it and forward that over to the Department of Labor so that the apprenticeship reps can do their piece, which is vetting the licensees to ensure the proper programs are administered.
What time do you think you'll be back? Because I've got to ask you for some information on the computer.
Can't get online.
Okay.
Hours.
Okay, just mute that one there. So, and I apologize. So for the individuals that are seeking, and that's going to go into place October 1st, the department will have that online. The department has already put together an application. We ran those application processes by the board chairs so that the board chairs can bring it back to the boards and have a conversation with the board members. So we will be online for the contractors that are seeking approval for, again, 8 or less as of October 1st. By February 1st of 2026, the boards need to have policies in place. And the boards can put together one policy and or each board could have its own policy in place. And what will happen is for those contractors that are seeking more than 8, those requests would go before the respective board to be reviewed and approved. So I don't know if anybody has any questions on that, kind of a quick summary, or if you need me to elaborate any more, Mr. Chair.
No, again, I just want the board to understand that this only affects the ask or the requests for more than 8 apprentices. Correct, John?
For the board, yes, correct.
The only question I have, this is Wayne, is when, and I know it's the way it's done now even, but if they're going to request additional apprentices, and say you're using a contractor license, has one to say we would like to add a 8th apprentice, if that guy works in the office, or if you're using a project manager's license to request an additional apprentice, chances are that guy's not out on the job, but they're getting an extra apprentice. They could be out of ratio, working alone, and, you know, are some of these contractors going to use this to try to just add additional apprentices? Because I see all the time where there's turnaround rates where every 6 months they fire apprentices, and we're just starting someone off in the career and they never finish the program. So is it a tool just to keep getting cheap help? Or, you know, I feel like if we're going to keep giving more and more apprentices, we need to make sure, and I don't know how we can do it, that they're actually working in the field with them so they're not out of ratio and properly getting trained.
Good point. The only thing I would elaborate on that is it's not meant to circumvent the laws. So at the end of the day, if they're approved for this, they still need to comply with the 1-to-1 job site ratio. So if it comes to the department's attention and it's investigated by the occupational enforcement group, there can be penalties. And again, because they're attesting to the fact that they have the proper number of licensees to support such relief request, the department, in conjunction with the board, can remove that request if that's the disciplinary action against them. And then they would have to comply with the hiring ratio as stated within statute. So there is, if it's brought to our attention, there can be, it will be properly investigated. I'll leave it at that.
Right, but the issue I see is, you know, somebody's got to stop and see the job. We're not going to know. They're not going to call and tell on themselves. But if you're the way, you know, it is currently, if you have, you know, it goes to 3-to-1, and then you can add one. Chances are they're not getting too many apprentices. Like I said, if you're using office staff to have the license, chances are they're not on the job working and training this person. They're just using that license to grab extra apprentices.
Yeah.
Well, on the review process, I think it would have came up in the discussion, John, and you remember the suggestion the boards could ask for the license, I forgot, I'm trying to think of the proper word, but
A list of the licensees. Yeah.
Licensees, but
And the title.
And their titles, like if they are a supervisor, if they're a project manager or whatever, where they're not actually field personnel. Correct?
Correct, yes. And that would be in the board's policy. So that would be for request over 8. If that was what the board's policy was to adopt, then yes, that can be a component of the relief application for the asks greater than 8 that go before the board. For the asks 8 or less, again, that's going to be the Department of Labor would be reviewing the number of licensees for each of the apprentices coming on to make sure, again, that they're enrolling them within the proper program.
In the previous meetings, they also, it was, with the board chairs, it was discussed. I mean, we could have our own, each board could have their own policy, but it was also mentioned to have some uniformity or everybody be in sync as far as the policy, correct? Like I say, I'm trying to make the board members that are present here today aware of what's going on, and I think, to digest this properly, I think maybe there should be another meeting of the board called where, they've had a chance to think about what's presented here and review.
Hey, Dave, Dave, what's the deadline for coming up with our own rules for our license?
By February, Kevin. Of
Okay,
next
thank you.
year.
But yeah, February 1st of 2026, it needs to be in place. It doesn't mean it can't be put in place prior to that date, but by that
Right.
date, the board needs to have their policy established.
But we've got some time. We can do it on the side and not have to have a meeting, right? We can just
Well-
collaborate on the,
To discuss it, we'd have to have a meeting. It's like, the discussions that came up with the board chairs, because I don't want to say the target's on our back, but our meeting was the first one after the meeting with the commissioner, and they're waiting to see what we come up with. And like I say, I don't think we should burden everybody and say, okay, let's come up with a policy right now where, you're
right.
you're still thinking about everything, trying to digest what's in the law, new law. I mean,
Yeah, we need to bounce some ideas around between us.
you know,
So the board can call a special meeting, but any conversation that happens where quorum is met would have to be a noticed board meeting.
well, yeah, that's what I
Okay.
say. It would,
No,
like
I
I
was
say,
just clarifying for Kevin.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
yeah,
got
we
you,
would
John.
have to have a meeting in order to discuss it, I'm sure, I would imagine.
right.
Okay.
It would constitute a meeting.
Right, but we'd also today to sit down and discuss everything and go line by line and say, okay, let's come up with a, whatever a policy. But like I say, some of the suggestions, as far as verifying license category, the position or the position of the license holder for the company, like I say, per se, is he a superintendent? Is he a project manager? Is he a field coordinator or whatever title you want to put? But he's not a guy that's an employee, I shouldn't say guy, and personnel that's out in the field working with the apprentice to guarantee the proper supervision. Like I say, when this came out, I testified many times when ratio relief came up before the legislature, and some of the issues that came up with you got a journeyman that's on vacation or journeyman's out sick. It's what do you do with the apprentice? I mean, it's hard to tell somebody to stay home or whatever, lose a day's pay. But I mean, things like that do happen. You have a death in the family. The apprentice is alone. That's why the old ratios were pretty much a guarantee that there would be proper supervision. You could send the apprentice to another job. He'd be with he had two journeymen working together. He could use an apprentice for a day or two, rather than have the individual. I mean, it's you get an individual that's up, to the end of the class, ready to graduate. Yeah, he's experienced, but he's still not supposed to be out there working alone. He or she should be supervised, has to be supervised. So like I say, this there has to be several things put into place to guarantee that does not happen.
So we should collectively have those nailed down the next meeting then, between
Well,
us.
yeah, I mean, if you haven't, download, the bill that was passed and read it over, and any questions you might have, or like I say, regarding policy, and I'm not a lawyer, but the understanding I have is it doesn't come before the board until it's over. The ask is for over 8. Correct, John?
Correct. Yeah.
So I mean, I don't foresee it being a big problem. I don't know many fire protection contractors that have over 8 apprentices. Maybe Wayne or Sean could answer that, but I mean, like I say, there are large contractors out there, but I don't see it coming up as a big initiative. You know, it's not going to be something that's going to come up every month or every 3 months when the board meets. I mean, again, if there was a request, I would have to venture a guess that we'd have to have a special meeting. Wouldn't we, John, or could it wait to 3 months?
It could, but I would advise, because your next meeting is not until December, I think December 4th. I don't know if Rochelle has a handy or not.
December 4th is correct.
Yeah, just because we're getting tight to the time there. And Mr. Chair, if I just noticed Larry Valeries is on the call. I don't know if you want to have Larry discuss some of the things that were brought up at the chairs meeting. That's your call.
Well, yes, I defer to Larry because Larry's I don't want to say he was helpful in writing this, but he's very knowledgeable when it comes to this. So Larry, if you'd like to put your 2 cents in, give your opinion, and let the board.
Sure. Thanks, Dave. And good morning to the rest of your board. And yes, I was involved with this as it was going through, and then ultimately with the final act, public act, as it's been signed into law by the governor. A couple of things that I heard people mentioned and what have you. I just want to try to touch base on those for everybody. First off, as far as getting our requirements together on the boards, I think it is important that we all are pretty much in line with each other so that we don't have a situation down the line where somebody from the electrical board complains because the plumbing board has this, and how come we have to have this additional restriction, or we don't have this restriction. So I think this is very important to show consistency amongst the 4 boards, and which I don't think is hard to do. I think we're all we'll be on the same page on that. As far as the question of particularly after 8 apprentices, I believe that this is my feeling anyway, and I've expressed this to my board in passing, but I think that concern that contractors or sponsors would put down their license numbers for people, as somebody said, that might be a project manager or whatever. There may be office personnel that are not out in the field to train. Okay, is a consideration, and quite frankly, is a concern of mine, because if you literally just let it go the way it is, and we don't put some additional policies on it for ourselves, you could have, in essence, a total 1-to-1 out there, period. Okay, and then you're going to have, as I'm not sure who it was, I think it might have been Kevin mentioned, Kevin or Tony, that then you're going to have apprentices that are not being supervised, which is something we don't want. Okay. My feeling is that we do need to ask for the license, the name, the license number, and what part of that company do they play a role in. If they're out there for field training and they're a field journey person, fine. If they're a project manager, etc., in the office, an estimator, I don't think we can consider them as being available or consistently out there training, and we want training to be consistent. So I've always, in my mind, thought that we should take that number of licensees that they produce to us and apply a 0.85 or an 85% factor to it. Okay. And that we would basically discount 15% of the journey person or contractor licenses that they produce to us, and work on the balance of those as possible trainees. Now that 15% or 85%, depends on which way you do the math, uh, is an arbitrary number that I've come up with. I've sat on the State Apprenticeship Council, Ratio Relief Board, and we all do it our own ways, okay? That happens to be one of the ways I've done, and I've always felt it's been relatively successful there, so that we don't create a problem of unlicensed and apprentices out there not being supervised. I don't think the task before us is very big. These policies that they've asked the boards to come up with can be modified once a year, according to the statute, but only once a year. And I think things that we maybe need to think about is, okay, if a sponsor applies and he or she has had some issues with either the DOL or DCP and has been found guilty of those issues, okay, and depending on that issue, to what extent do we hold that as a negative, or is it pointing against the person? Those are some of the things that come to my mind right away. Is how do we gauge this thing to make this thing, fair? But I think all that can evolve as we start talking amongst all the boards. And I think if each board does talk separately, we'll come up with different ideas from all the boards instead of just staying on one board's mindset. Okay. So I don't know if that helps anything. Excuse me, Dave.
I appreciate the information, Larry, and I didn't realize that 85% number. I know you mentioned it in the past. You used it when you were handling ratio relief at the DOL. I know you sat on that committee for years.
Yeah. I mean, that was something I used, not necessarily something the other members used, but it was because we never saw how each other voted until the very end when it was completed, and then we'd see a summary of how things went for the applicant. And maybe it's not 85, maybe it's 20, maybe, I don't know, but it worked. To me, it's worked out pretty good.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the explanation, Larry. Like I say, I know you were more knowledgeable at this, even at the meetings with the commissioner and with the board chairs. That's why I deferred to you to explain what you could. And again, as I stated before, I testified, I always wanted to guarantee the apprentice was supervised, learning the trade, not just out there. And again, not having a company that wants, as I think Wayne put it, inexpensive help. You get, one journeyman and 2 or 3 apprentices. I remember years ago stopping by a job, and it was on the Berlin Turnpike, and there was 2 journeymen and 3 apprentices on the job there, and I, reported it to the state, but this was many years ago. It didn't go anywhere. But like I say, they were out of ratio, and again, not properly supervised. Haven't been an instructor over the years. I always wanted to make sure the people coming up behind me were the best that could be. The more they knew, the easier it made my job.
Yeah, Dave. The other thing is, as you know, and I've been doing this for quite a while, but one of the biggest pet peeves that I have is the contractor that hires a person, tells them they will register them, and doesn't register them, and then that person down the road applies to the board for take the test as a journey person, and we have to turn them down because those were those hours were never credited properly. I mean, that is a hard thing for the boards to have to do to turn somebody down like that. And I think the fact that now we have DCP and DOL working very closely on some of these site inspections, I think it helps that situation quite a bit.
Well, I remember, back when Jack Guerrero was over at the DOL, I mean, he had the posters out there, don't get screwed. I mean, it was, that's the way it was on the poster, because, they couldn't credit you with unverified time.
Right.
And, it's unfortunate, like I say, I mean, it's very similar to, with us, when we got our license back in the 90s, people were grandfathered in, and people would come before the board and say, geez, I let my license go. I wasn't using it. I'd like to get my license back. And we'd say, you don't meet the qualifications. You were grandfathered in. You didn't have the proper training. You didn't have the required hours of on the job and related instruction. And like I say,
Right.
It's hard to tell somebody that's been doing it, and unfortunately, you say, you never should have let the license go. It's the same thing with the youngster, young individual, not always young, the apprentices, but I mean, when, like I say, the contractor lies to them. And laws are only there for the dishonest people. The honest people do the right thing. You were in business long enough, Larry. You ran it, you ran it by the books. It's, but like I say, it's this here. I don't understand, and you brought up a point before about being uniform, and again, I could throw that back and say, gee, how come we're not uniform? The elevator and the glazer, they have straight 1-to-1. I mean, you know what I'm saying, Larry? I mean, it's.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, let's if we're gonna go for uniformity, let's go across the board.
Well,
That's just my opinion.
that which is not uniformity, we can't do a lot about, but we can at least keep ourselves on the same wavelength. And I think these 4 boards represent the bulk of the industry out there anyway.
Well, I thank you for your explanation, Larry, and
No
your
problem.
assist there. Again, like I said, as far as I'll put it back to the board, I mean, hey, we could call a special meeting, Zoom meeting or whatever, or doesn't have to be in person, to discuss and come up with the, even just,
Dave,
say again?
Dave, I'm available just about most any time, if needed, so.
Yeah. Hey, maybe, I don't know, it'd be tough to put together, but maybe we had a meeting of all 4 boards on a Zoom meeting. It's, I mean, just a possibility, if you want to shoot for uniformity.
Yeah.
Just a suggestion, but like I say, it's, to sit here and just all of a sudden be the board to be presented with it and then come up with a policy or whatever and say, I don't think that would be, best process.
Dave, I
Anybody
think
in
it's a
the,
nice feature. We can change it every year though. So if we forget something, we can add it in next year. That's nice. It's not just finalized when the first time.
Yeah, or modify it, which is.
Yeah.
and I hate to go out on a limb, but I think as far as the fire protection, I don't see this coming up as a big issue. Electrical board, you have some pretty large electrical contractors out there, same thing with mechanical contractors. I think they'd be more impacted by this than the fire board.
Yep.
But like I say, it's we have to do something. We have to come up with a policy. Therefore, call for another, maybe another meeting soon.
Yep. Well, we can all meet at your house for Thanksgiving, Dave.
Well, you're down by the shore. don't you get together with Chuck? You know, to.
No.
I called dibs on the dark meat. I want the leg.
Oh, you too? That's fine. There's only two, so we got them covered.
Okay.
Well, Dave, the only thing I see from what I run into is, without naming company names, is you have these equity groups that are coming through now, buying up a lot of the small companies. They fall under the same name and umbrella. So contractor A could have an office that's in Massachusetts, and they have 3 guys that hold the Connecticut journeyman license, and these kids are going to get registered in Connecticut, but maybe those journeymen don't ever show up down here. It could run into an issue with us. I understand what you're saying. Most of the contractors are smaller, but down the road, we could run into the issue with all these equity groups buying up, and they fall under that umbrella name now. Instead of, it used to be like 5 different companies, contractors. Now they're labeled as one. You know what I'm saying?
Not fine. I didn't know that was going on, with a company, would have multiple, offshoots or whatever under different names.
They're buying up everybody. It's happening in
There's
all
actually a lot of that going on.
Yeah, we've seen it in the electrical side as well.
Janita, you have to
That's
get out there
enforcement.
more.
Yep.
It's
That's on the enforcement.
and again, I mean, you'd almost think with 2 departments, DCP, DOL, you'd have more enforcement, but I'm skeptical of that. I don't know if it's going to be finger pointing, like it's, well, it's your department. No, it's yours, and nothing gets done. So it's a valid point you brought up,
I
Wayne.
do see, I see a lot of complaints that are getting searched right away, and they investigate it. I've noticed a positive thing since they've added the new. I mean, I'm sure she would love to have a staff of 100 to send out and do it, but I think she's doing a great job with what she has, and it would be better, to have more people on staff, but you can only work with what you get too.
Well, the fortunate thing is she's got the highest numbers that I think the department's ever had as far as inspectors go. Correct, Janita?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, that is correct. And
Hey, Janita, I have a quick question. Don't the local authorities also have jurisdiction over that too? Like the local inspectors? Building inspector, plumbing inspector? Can't they ask for licenses on the job?
that it's the state building code said they could. It does not say shall. And that's
Right.
up to the local jurisdiction, the local authority having jurisdiction, and on local ordinances and what the town or the city wants their building department to do. It's not
Okay.
mandated.
Right. But they can be like deputies of the.
Kevin,
Well, no, they're not deputies of DCP, sir. They run their own town or cities. They're not deputies for the department. They don't act on the behalf of the department. They take care of permitting and code inspection, and the state building code says they could, they may, they might. It doesn't compel them to. Okay?
Roger that.
Kevin, I've been removed from the industry for a few years now, but I can remember, you'd have encounters with a fire marshal or a plumbing inspector checking out the test or inspection of the system or whatever. And I'd ask them, you want to see my license? No. I said, you should be asking for licenses. You could get a percentage of the revenue off of it also. And you know what their answer was? Not my job. I mean, no, it's like they don't want to go above and beyond. It's like, I've had over the years, I knew one inspector from Hartford that would check on licenses, and but it's all the years in the business. It's you know, I used to appreciate it when you know, there was an inspector, you know, I mean, I've only been challenged a few times over the 44
Yep.
years I spent out there in the field. Yeah, I could count
Yeah, I
them
think
on
it was
one hand.
Hartford asked us for licenses once, and I think Waterbury did once too.
Yeah.
But it wasn't common. It was it was out of the ordinary for that to happen.
Yeah.
Bob and
I would think any
Windsor always
conscientious-
would check.
I was gonna
Yeah,
say,
I
I don't know if
think
he
any
retired, but the guy in Windsor asked me, I want to say a year ago.
Yeah, Windsor Fire Marshal used to be, he was a go-getter when it came to checking licenses and whatever. And, you know, Tony, he brought a few charges, before our board way back in, what was his name? Belosevic? No, was it Belosevic? Was that
I
his?
think it was
No.
like
Bolashevitz, yeah.
Milosevic.
Yeah.
Bob, yeah.
Yeah.
But,
That's not the look of it.
but he was one that was, you know, let's say avid when it came to checking licenses. But there was not that many over the years. Anyhow, so is there any further questions on ratio relief? Well, I mean, we'll try and come up with a date and we'll get together a Zoom meeting and, you know, and then hopefully in the not too distant future. And, so you're going to make sure and coordinate with Larry, and, you know, Larry could give his input. Like I say, I hate to say Larry, but I got a feeling that they asked you for input when this was put together. Am I wrong in that statement, or?
My mic was off.
Larry, you there?
No.
Oh.
Oh,
No,
you
you're
weren't?
not wrong. No,
you had
you were
no
not
input?
wrong.
Beg your
Yeah, I did
pardon?
have some.
Oh,
I did
okay.
have some input. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I say, though, I mean,
And this, you know,
If we could get some input from the other boards, that'd be good too.
I think.
I mean, one thing for our board to look at is on your own time to research. They just had that fire over in I think Fall River, Mass, and all those lives were lost. And I believe there was unlicensed, untrained, unqualified sprinkler fitters. The system didn't even go off. I mean, that's what we don't want happening.
Right.
That was like a few months ago or a month ago.
And I think to your point on that one alone, just as an example, if I may, I think that's where it's so important that our local building officials do ask and check for licenses and what have you. But I know
agree with you.
a few years back.
And that Fall River job, there was an inspection done. It wasn't, you know, far off from the fire. Like there was an inspection, I want to say maybe a month earlier, somebody signed off on that inspection.
Yeah. Oops,
All right.
Sorry about that. That was my little dog.
So we'll come up with a date and we'll get together. Then. All right.
Sounds good, Dave.
All right. Moving along. Correspondence. I don't believe there's any correspondence, Rochelle. Is there?
No, I haven't received anything.
Yeah. Comments or concerns? Any persons present today? No. No. With that, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a
I'll
second?
second.
Second.
All in favors? Yeah.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting adjourned at 9:50. Thank you,
Thank you,
everybody.
everyone.
everybody.
Enjoy your long weekend.
Bye-bye.
Have a great Labor Day,
You
everyone.
too.
Great.
Have a nice time.
Take care.
Be safe. Be careful. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.